CGTN's Robert Nagila now joins me in the studio. He was recently in Mozambique following the developments of the first cyclone Idai. 2 deadly cyclones in Mozambique in just 1 month. What's the impact on the ground, and how difficult is it for all those people affected by this?
Well, Karen, the impact on the people, on the economy, is huge. Remember, just before the first cyclone Idai hit Mozambique, they were already reeling from floods after heavy rainfall over a number of weeks. So this has just gone on to devastate the country even further. You're talking about people's livelihoods lost, homes destroyed, infrastructure destroyed. You're talking about an economy that is now on its knees, basically. So the impact has been huge. And at this particular moment, with this second cyclone hitting over the weekend, they are yet to fully comprehend the situation on the ground, basically due to access.
So they were just trying to get back on their feet. Another one comes along. How are the aid agencies responding to this latest cyclone, Cyclone Kenneth, and what challenges are the agencies experiencing now?
Well, from what we saw in Beira, the aid effort is huge. They basically set up the headquarters at the airport in Beira. It's led by the United Nations, but the overall control of this aid effort is the government. Now, they seemed to have the situation in Beira under control, but it was within central Mozambique that was the main problem, mainly due to access, because of the floods that were there before, and then the subsequent heavy rainfall, floods, and Cyclone Idai as well. It was really difficult for them to gain access to certain areas. By the time we were leaving, this was about almost a month after Cyclone Idai, they had yet to gain access to certain areas because the infrastructure had been destroyed already. And I suspect that's the same problem with Pemba as well. As we speak, they're still trying to assess the situation on the ground because access is still a huge, huge problem.
Well, let's talk a bit more about the international community. Given the magnitude of the floods there, do you think they should be doing more?
Well, to be honest, I think they're doing as much as they can at this particular moment. While we were there were hundreds of different agencies from the European Union, ICRC, the Red Cross, you had the United Nations, UNICEF, various other agencies within the United Nations. So you had all these different aid agencies working together with the government. So I suspect in terms of having boots on the ground, they've got enough people there. What they need at this particular moment is going to be more funds, because the floods have destroyed crops. So there's a looming famine as well. So apart from just cholera, malaria, there's a looming famine. What was supposed to have fed the entire population is more or less gone. That was in central Mozambique. I suspect in the coming days, as the floods recede, we're going to start hearing the same situation in Pemba as well and the underlying regions. So it's a huge, huge problem. I believe the international community and agencies are doing as much as they can. But in terms of Pemba, they have to wait until the floods actually reside before they can actually move in to assess the situation and then get the required humanitarian assistance to those who need it the most.
Well, you talk about Pemba and the conditions at the moment. The forecast is for Cyclone Kenneth to dump twice as much rainfall as Idai, so it's twice as bad. What plans specifically are in place to deal with that?
Well, what we do know, as soon as the government got wind of Cyclone Kenneth, what they did is they began evacuating people in low-lying areas up to much higher areas. However, much of Mozambique is basically flat. So that's one of the reasons why we're seeing the entire area being flooded so quickly. And of course, the heavy rains are not helping. We're talking about an entire rainfall for the entire year, raining in 2 days. That just shows you the gravity of what they're dealing with on the ground at this particular moment. So it's not going to be easy. They still have a long way to go. We've had from the World Bank saying that they will need at least $2.2 or $2.5 billion this year alone to try and prop up the economy and to help those in need. We've had the United Nations saying they've given out $13.5 million in emergency assistance over the last couple of days, but a lot more money and humanitarian assistance assistance is going to be needed. So I suspect very quickly, Karen, once the floods subside, we're going to see a base set up at the airport, international airport at Pemba, and we're going to start seeing relief operations from there to the hinter areas, as we saw in Beira as well.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming in and describing this incredibly dreadful situation in Mozambique.